Oh,
Aeray, welcome to my podcast. I'm going to throw
delighted.
straight to you and you can just introduce yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. It's so great to be here. My name is Aeray Lumm. I go by Aeray, and I am a Gene Keys and human design teacher and analyst. I give soul blueprint readings for individuals and couples. I especially like working with couples and relationships to see where they have compatibility, where they have conflict, and how they can best work with each other in the relationship to accept each other as they are, instead of trying to change each other. And I think this is where you and I align a lot, because you do very similar work in a different way. So I'm very excited to be here and drop in with you around all kinds of topics, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So welcome. Like for people who are listening, we've been chatting in DMs for a bit, like a few voice messages, great, amazing conversations. I'm like, I've got to have you on my podcast. I've got to have you here. And what's been showing up, like you're about to go into ISTA, and also right now you're in a bit of a rebrand, a bit of like a identity shift, and I hear there's a new voice coming out for you. There's something else that's here for you on the cusp of something. So tell us a little bit more about that.
You know, 5 years ago, I was pretty deep into my coaching business. I was doing chart readings. I've been doing chart readings for 12 years. And since Gene Keys first started, actually, I had one of the very first books that ever came out. And I was pretty excited about it and wanted to share it with the world. And I took on a lot of clients and started doing a lot of coaching work, and was doing interviews like this. And then, I found that I was still in need of some deep inner work myself, and it didn't feel fully authentic to me. I mean, a lot of what I was doing was called the authentic experience, and I didn't feel very authentic in it because I had so much going on in my own world that it made it hard for me to feel an integrity to be coaching people. And I noticed a lot of that happening online, a lot of coaches out there that were, relationship coaches, but weren't in a relationship, or money coaches and didn't have any money, and all of this. So I really wanted to take a step back and lock into a deeper form of integrity with myself. And so I've taken the last 5 years to be way more deep into my own, again, another deep dive into my own inner world, and resolve some of the things that were coming up for me. I mean, my life was kind of a mess at the time, not a mess, but it just wasn't where I wanted it to be coaching people. So I took a step back and I went some other directions. I created a couple other businesses, and now I feel like I'm at a point where I feel really ready and excited to share my gifts, and I have more clarity on what it is that I'm bringing and how I can actually help people, and the messages that I bring, the tools that I bring. And so I'm really excited to step back out from a whole new perspective, a more grounded, integrous perspective, and with more self-love, I feel. Yeah. And escort people into that self-love journey, which I think we're ready for as a collective.
Totally agree. And what's present for you right now? Like, what's going on in your body? Like, what's going on for you right now?
Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm nervous. I mean, it's a lot to step back out, and it takes a great deal of self-trust. And because I'm coming from a new place, the trust is going to build through the experience. So I'm here to see for myself how I show up and what comes through, and as like maybe a litmus test to see where I am in comparison to some of the other interviews I did in the past. And and I appreciate that prompt too, because it's, there's a release already happening of that energy just by naming it. So brilliant. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I in our conversations in Messenger, I really hear your ability to pivot super quick, like be able to move through whatever's going on for you. It's like, wow, like she knows how to move.
I love
And what's that journey to learn how to do that?
I was just going to say, I love to be in the fire. I love the intensity. I love the transformational process. I define it, or I kind of identify it as like an emotional or energetic orgasm almost, to really sit in that fire, feel it all the way through to the end until the release happens. And it is like a purification. It is like it's an orgasm, you know, in a spiritual way, I guess you could say. Yeah.
I love it. I hear
yeah.
what you're saying. Like there's a like a pressure and a tension, and then there's a release. Because for me, like when I feel there's a conflict, a dysregularity and out of integrity, there's something that's out of integrous with who I want to be and who I am right now, and I can feel the two pieces coming together. And then when I'm with them, like that alchemic process happens. It's like, oh wow, the release, and oh, I'm on the other side of it now, you know, light a cigarette, just kidding. But yeah, it's kind of that feeling, right? Where you just, oh, now I've moved through it, and you can feel the new space that's in your body from what you've just created, what you've just transformed.
The spaciousness. That's exactly it. That's exactly how I would say it too. And even to name what you're saying before, it's like holding a polarity. You know, it feels like you're holding two ends of a spectrum. And there's a certain period of time I feel of becoming comfortable with that and just learning to hold it without doing anything. And then at some point, like you said, it starts to come together, and it feels like an intensity moving together. And in the past, I noticed how I would, I have an avoidant attachment style. So I would distract, or any number of things. And now when I feel that coming on, I recognize this is an opportunity coming, and I love it because I know what's on the other side. So it's transformed my perspective around it, where instead of feeling afraid of it or avoidant of it, you know, I'm almost running to it like a junkie, like breakthrough transformational junkie now. It's actually fun, you know. People don't understand, and they don't believe me when I say that, but it can be really fun. And
Totally.
In a relationship, when two people can sit with each other and both agree to that process and really hold that and move through it, it's exhilarating.
Yeah,
as you know.
thank you. You totally agree. Thank you. I really feel that. A few things popped up for me there that I want to ask you. One was, I have a friend who very scientifically minded, and when I speak to him about like the gene keys or human design or astrology, well, how can they possibly relate to a human? How can I possibly navigate my relationships around like what these other systems say that aren't really grounded in quote unquote science? So what could I say to him to either not persuade him, but open his heart more, open his mind more to the possibilities?
Yeah. Well, I would say that some of them are grounded in science. You know, the gene keys has a lot of science behind it, and genetics. There's actually a lot of physiology involved in it. You know, I mean, it identifies with amino acids in your body, parts of your body. And really, it's called a living library for a reason, because the experience of it is what really anchors it into your body and your awareness. You know, when you can actually feel the energies moving, and you can become aware of how it's showing up for you, and you can, you know, once you have the chart reading and you start to actually look for it and experience it, and it comes alive in you. Most of the people, because I have a lot of skeptics too, most of the people that come to me for readings have never heard of it. And they're usually open head, open mind, because they're curious, but that also brings skepticism. And so they come and I give them a chart reading, and then it's within a week or two I hear from them, and they're like, oh my God, this is all happening. I really see it. I really feel it. You know, especially in my relationships, like this is conflict or compromise that was going to come up. Now I see it. It's been happening all week. Wow, you really nailed it. This is the thing for us. And now we know what to do. And yeah, so I would say by having the experience and trusting the process, but also, you know, there is some information, especially in the gene keys. There's quite a bit of introductory information that ties into science and genetics that can be very useful for somebody who is skeptical in that way. Yeah, I would recommend reading the introduction of the gene keys, or even just, there's a lot of information online.
Thank you. Because I do see the gene keys are the most relationship-based system. Like it's the one that feels the most feminine to me, and it's got the masculine structure, sure, but it really is more emotional and embodied.
Yeah.
And especially,
you know,
You go.
I was just going to say that in general, I try to define it because I use both human design and gene keys, and I put them together, and I feel now they are inextricably linked because human design is the masculine and gene keys is the feminine, and human design gives us the structure, and it gives us the format, it gives us the mechanics, and then gene keys is the transformation. So what I feel a lot of people, especially spiritual seekers that have been doing this a long time, a big thing they come with human design is, I don't want to be put in the box. I don't want this. This is a box, right?
Yeah.
And my response to that is, yes, it's a box. And gene keys is the transcending of the box. And so we have two different awakening paths. You know, there's many awakening paths, but there's the path of individuation and the path of integration. And human design is very individuating. It's very much about, who am I as a separate human being? That's what people resist. And then the gene keys is about transcending that. So my personal experience is that when we get in the box and we stretch out into the box and we say, what does it feel like to fully be this? And we allow ourselves to have that experience, then the transformation starts to happen naturally. And we get to a point where we're no longer that box naturally, and we're already everything, and every possibility is there for us. But I feel like it takes both, you know, both perspectives.
Thank you. That was really important. And when you listen to this back again, you're like, oh my God, that was like some like earth-shattering wisdom that you just spoke in. Especially in the comparison between the human design and the gene keys, because I do see that my ex-business partner very much tied into human design. He loved being a manifester. He loved having all these traits. And I'm being a generator, I had to abide by all these. I had to do all the things to make sure I wasn't upsetting him and making him angry. But then when I transitioned more into the gene keys, I could really see this softening of what was really required to make that relationship work, and the relationship with myself, to forgive myself, to become something that I didn't in order to fit in with his model of the world, which was very transformative for me. So when I started looking into the gene keys, I'm like, no, this is the thing for me. And this is much more who I am, and how I can see that as a community and moving forward as the individual within a community, and the community within like an organization, and the organization within the world. It's much more of a like the synarchy, right? The embodiment of what it means to be connected to everything, and assuming that we're a little silo, but really we are everything and one thing at the same time.
Yeah. And I have a question for you. Well, what was it for you? Well, I have a couple questions. I guess I would start with like, what was your first experience coming into the gene keys, and what brought you to that, and how has it transformed your life the most?
Yeah, great question. So how did that transition happen? I think I saw a post or something about the gene keys. Oh no, that's what happened. I went to some community event, and then one of my friends who was madly into human design was doing gene keys readings. I'm like, I don't need to know the gene keys. Like, I've got human design right now. I'm happy. I'm happy being a generator, fully defined, all the things. I'm happy.
You are fully defined.
Fully defined.
We haven't even gone into your chart yet, and we must.
We must. And I remember this, it just lodged in my mind, like, oh, the gene keys, this is something that's there. And then I'm not sure, for me, things need to happen repeatedly. And then it just then becomes a thunderbolt of a now I need to have a look at this. And I remember having a look at a gene key or something, and I bought all the books in one instant. I bought all the books, bought the activation sequence. I'm like, nah, this is it. This is the thing, because it just resonated with me on such a deep level.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah.
And it's just unstoppable. I'm like, yeah, I recommend human design for someone on their initial that structure journey.
Yeah.
And then go deep into the gene keys, like get your strategy and your authority and see how that works for you, especially like projectors and manifestors and that type, and reflectors. Like acknowledge that people have been shaming you for having naps, right? For projectors especially,
Oh, you need to. Exactly. Open shaming for all kinds of things that when you finally drop into it and you learn about it, you realize, wow, what I need is not what somebody else needs. In fact,
Yeah.
every single one of us needs something completely different.
You mentioned
Yeah.
this before, like every chart you look at, everybody is just so unique.
It blows my mind. I've done thousands of chart readings, thousands, and I still pick up charts and go, whoa, I haven't seen a chart like this. I mean, and even, I actually did a reading for a woman who had triplets and they were all born at the same time and all of their charts were the same, right? But part of what I do too is like an energetic soul blueprint reading. Like I see someone's soul essence immediately and I can kind of channel back and use this framework, the human design and gene keys framework and language in order to deliver that message. And so working with these three children, I could see immediately how they were different. And in the gene keys or in human design with the 64 gates, each gate can show up in 64,000 different ways.
Wow.
64,000. And that decimal point, I mean, it's called a line. Some people don't know what I'm talking about, but that's okay. It can go out 4 spaces, and that's how we get to 64,000. So when you have people that are born at the same time, that second that they're born actually makes a big difference. And it completely changes how that trait can show up for somebody. So even though somebody can be born, 2 people born at the same time can be still very different people and express themselves very differently, especially when you factor in nurture,
Totally.
conditioning.
And I
Yeah.
feel like gene keys factors in nurture. That's what
Yes.
I feel
Well,
like.
yes. Yeah.
With
Yeah.
especially in the Venus sequence is a solid, like, no, these are your cycles. This is this
Yeah.
is that, this is there. Think back to that time. So for you, Aeray, where would you, like, for an example, like your attraction sphere, like how's that played out for you in relationships?
Oh, good question. That's the perfect question. That's the perfect sphere too, because my attraction is in the 19, which is the shadow of codependence,
Yeah.
the gift of sensitivity, and the city of sacrifice. So codependence has been a major part of my relationship. I mean, the fact that it's in my attractor sphere means I'm also attracting that in other people. So every relationship I've had, I mean, I 3 of my exes, and most of my relationships are long-term, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. And all my exes are now through rehab and sober from alcoholism.
Wow.
But in our relationships, that was very present, a lot of alcoholism there. My own substance use over time, my own relationship, people codependent, or we have the repressive and the reactive nature. So I also have an avoidant attachment style and a way of like pushing away other people's codependence. And and then to even go into the city of sacrifice, people, when they see these cities, and this is something I feel is important to be very clear about. When we're talking about shadow, gift, and city, the idea is not to work toward the gift in the city. It's not to try to become these, in my opinion. And even Richard Rudd will say to focus on the city, but I feel like that my work is different. I focus on the shadow because I feel that really getting to the city is through the shadow. It's through the unconditional love and acceptance and embracing of the shadow. And it's like a wormhole, right? That will take you there really fast. Working toward it actually can take you the opposite direction. And as in the gene keys, it's known that the 12th gene key is the last one to transform, which is the shadow of vanity. And a big reason for that is because, that comes up when we are trying so hard to get into the city, or we're trying so hard to work for the gift and we're not aware of it, right? And that what dissolves the vanity is really the unconditional love of the shadow and the ability to be in the shadow, to stand in the shadow with full awareness and give it profound love. Like there's a pyramid that people know about that's like the vibration and frequency, on the top is joy and whatever, laughter, and the bottom is shame and grief. And I don't really agree with grief being on the bottom there, but people will talk to me about this, how do I raise my vibration? How do I get up here to the top of the pyramid? And my response is, you don't have to be anywhere on that pyramid other than where you are. And if you can give yourself unconditional love right where you're at, you're there. You're already at the highest frequency, and there's nothing that's left to do.
Thank you. I feel that.
There was something else I was going to mention earlier, if it's okay, that I wanted to clarify with between human design and gene keys. You mentioned about, people being ready for one or the other, depending on where they're at on the path. And I feel that human design is a very good first step, because it teaches us first who we are, and it's going to present us with the strategy of really how to walk through life in a way that makes life so much easier. I mean, it's the mechanics of it. 70% of people are generators, and there's a reason why it's the easiest one to be. And when generators learn about human design, and they learn how to follow their gut or their yes or no in that way, life becomes so simple. It's like one thing, only one thing you ever have to do or think about, and that's it. So it is a fantastic place to start, because it brings an immense amount of ease in our life, and an ability to make decisions and manifest very quickly. And then the gene keys is kind of a next step, where we start to transform. We take that as we're living our human design. Now we can work on our transformation. However, I started with the gene keys. You sound like you started with the gene keys. A lot of people do that.
Human design. Started with human design.
You started with human design. Yeah. I love gene keys so much. I had to go through the back door and learn everything about human design too. And honestly, it filled it in. Like, I needed both. It's both, it's like trying to be just in the masculine or just in the feminine.
Totally agree. I think they both work really well together. Thank you for that clarification. I think it's really important for people to get at that wisdom, because I think a lot of people want to know. They want to know, what do I do? Where do I go? Where do I start? And the chart can be so overwhelming. Like, you plug in your both charts. I mean, I think the hologenetic profile was more overwhelming to me than the body graph, because I'm looking at I'll look at what am I looking at? Like, all these spheres and these letters, and the body graph made sense to me purely because the triangle, the square and the throat. There was a body overlay there. But then once I got the gene keys, once I understood how that map, it's I think what threw me, because it was so simple that I was looking for something that was complicated.
Yeah.
But then once I get it, I'm like, I get this. Like, this is so even the hologenetic concept is amazing.
Do you have the 23rd gene key, in your human design? Do you have the 23rd gate?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll check.
I've kind of made it. This is the vanity. This is 12 speaking.
Good. Good awareness. That's brilliant. I love that.
Like, I want to embody all the keys. I'm like, I want to do everything. Listen to all the keys, and I do. Like, today, I felt an urgency to listen to the 40th, so I'm going to listen to the 40th while I've got the 40th as my pearl. I'll listen to that while I'm mowing the lawn. And I've been listening to the 51, the 57, like or the 43. Like, I feel there's keys that just drop into me, and I need to listen to them. And it doesn't matter how many times I listen to them, some other freaking wisdom will drop in. I'm like,
always.
Oh, it
always.
It blows my mind. The other day, I don't remember which one I was listening to, and maybe it was the 33, but it was about taking. Maybe it was a 51. It said, take a step back, like close your laptop screen, take a pause from life. And I was like, I need to do. I've not heard in any gene key before telling me to close my laptop screen, and it blew my mind. And then, like, I've also listened to the gene keys on mushrooms as well. Like, I'll go into the nature. I like have my I'll listen to the audiobook. So when I first started listening to the audiobook, I was like, who's this woman speaking? Her voice is so grating on me. But then I realized that there's no emotional charge in her voice. So I can listen to her and just discern the context, the knowledge from her emotions. So it's all me. It's all my emotions come up when I'm listening to her. So it's perfect. But I went on a bit of a tangent there, but the 12. So I was listening to the 12 frequently. I was like, cool, I'm going to crack this ring of secrets. I'm gonna
Say that
do it.
again.
I'm gonna crack this room's secrets. Like I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna listen to 12 enough.
Right.
And then vanity kept coming up again. I can't this is it's like a finger trap. It's like vanity. Like
Oh, the Chinese finger trap.
I'm stuck
Yeah.
in this. Like I can't. It
You cannot transform vanity by going straight at it, because it's vanity to go for vanity. It's why it's the last one to transform. Honestly, vanity transforms when you're no longer trying to transform anything at all. When you're so completely content and happy with who you are in this moment. And this is when all the shadows transform, really, is when you no longer even want to transform them. I mean, the process of allow, accept, and embrace, which would be a good thing to talk about. Once you get to the point where you really start to see how this shadow has benefited you, and how it's like, in a way, it becomes a gift. It becomes your gift. And then sometimes you don't even want to lose it. And you forget about it. You move on to something else. And then years later, you're like, whatever happened to that? I wasn't paying attention. That's when it goes, really. When you're done with the idea that you even need the transformation process, that's when the 12th gene key will start to transform.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that.
It's a big one, that 12. It's a big one in our culture. It's my culture sphere.
Right.
So it's
59,
it's who I'm here to work with.
Great. Yeah. I love it. I love it. 59 is my culture. So I love
perfect for ISTA.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it really is.
Because 59 is intimacy. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Intimacy wise, the number of partners that I've had, the number of kids that I've had. I've got one of my own kids, but I was a sperm donor many, many years ago. And that was like, I didn't know gene keys or human design back then. But when I had a reading, like, have you got a lot of kids? And I've got, yeah, kind of.
Because it's the Baby Maker channel.
Baby Maker channel, you know?
Yeah.
It was hilarious to me. And it all started dropping in when I started getting these readings. But in all of that, the human condition piece. So it might be great to speak to all of these things and all of these systems. At the core of it all, what does it help us understand about ourselves?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say that both human design and gene keys help us understand ourselves, but the process of transformation, I think what it helps the most is to accept that we are, or even just realize that we are all such unique beings, and that we're made to be that way. And that not only do you have these shadows, which are not flaws anymore, and in my mind, they're just opportunities to experience parts of yourself in life, right? But that we actually get to be who we are. And that a lot of people, when I do a first session with them, they can be a bit triggered, or they're not happy with their chart, or they feel like they wish it was something different. And when we're really, really radically honest with ourselves, and we really dig deep, we start to realize that we actually wanted to be that way, and that it's okay to be this way. It gives people permission to be who they are. You know, I think that's the big realization, is that it's okay to be who we are, and it's okay to be different, and that we live in a culture that tries to homogenize us and fit us all into, certain categories. This was the whole reason I left the field of psychology 20 years ago, was because I was studying attachment styles in the DSM, and the DSM, it became very clear to me that it was an attempt to homogenize people. And if you don't fit into them, then everyone has a disorder. Yeah. And that was very psychologically traumatizing to people, and that they were identifying with this for the rest of their lives. And the way I see it is, there's 8 billion unique people on the planet, and we need to be allowed to be unique and not try to homogenize each other, but really celebrate our differences. And instead of, if this person's way over here and they don't fit into this setting, this classroom setting, instead of labeling them as ADHD because they don't want to sit there, they may be here to have a very physical purpose. They may have, if we can hone in on what their purpose is and what they're here to do, and direct them in that way, and say, you're a perfectly normal human being. And as long as you're following your design and your purpose, and you're going in the direction that you really want to go, then this whole thing can dissolve for you. It doesn't have to be a box that you're trapped in. and, I don't know if it's necessary to mention, but I think a lot of that purpose of the DSM and the disordering is medicating too. And so for that, Gene Keys has been an incredible medicine, holistic medicine, because it's the path of transformation without needing anything else. It's really embracing. I mean, if you have quote unquote ADHD and you can really allow yourself to be where you're at and be with that energy and follow that energy and give unconditional love to that energy and ask yourself, what do I want in this moment? And what is meaningful to me? And when something's meaningful to somebody who considers themselves to have that energy, they can pay attention for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's healing, I feel, to realize that you are perfect as you are. And I like to say a eternally unfinished masterpiece, just as we are.
Thank you. Yeah, I really feel that. An eternally unfinished masterpiece. Yeah. When you said that you see 8 billion unique individuals, yeah, I really felt that too.
Yeah.
Like everybody has their own blueprint, and then like the Gene Keys in human design, there's just a guide.
Yeah, to realize that we each came here for, each of us has a purpose.
Yeah.
And that if you came with these, gosh, I don't even like to say the word disorder, but just to bring clarity there, it limits you from fully stepping into why you came, because you actually need that energy to do what you came to do.
Yeah.
So it's the dissolution of shame in that way.
Totally. And in that pathological model, it does hold people down. So I've got 2 clients that I'm working with at the moment. One's had multiple DSM diagnoses put on her, and she's received them because it validates her who she is right now, and she's needed those acronyms to help her. Okay, cool. This is help understand what's going on for me. But in the long run, she doesn't want them. So she's like, cool, I don't want these anymore. Like, can you help me move through these so they don't become this pathological module that is on me? It's like, yeah, totally. We can help you move through all of this. Like, it's not that pathological model is aimed at a prognosis of, like you said, medication and treatment.
Medication, that's the only way forever. And that's a real trap for people. But similar to the human design, to have that labeling, if somebody needs that to feel an understanding or to feel regulated or normal in some way, it's just like stepping into the box of human design. And, what I can maybe, in my opinion, a less fulfilling approach. But the problem is that our society doesn't have a framework for transcending that box when someone's put in it.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like you're even when my brother had leukemia, and he's been, and again, this is the term, like remission. Like, you're not cured from it. You're actually in remission for once you've had it. So you're in this box for however long.
Ever.
Well, wait a minute. Like, I feel pretty good right now. Like, so there's this thing around it.
And we create with our beliefs, so that has an impact on the rest of our life.
Totally. And then if in the States and certain countries, they'll laud that diagnosis against you. Like, they'll check your mental health records, right?
Oh, that's a really good point, actually. These things are 100% can be used against us. Yeah. In work situations and education situations and relationships with our parents. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you have this thing. Oh, it's your thing. Oh, I don't even need to believe what you're saying because you have this thing.
Totally. And I've seen that play out in relationships where, and couples that I work with, where one will be diagnosed with bipolar, and then all of a sudden they're continuously gaslit about what's really going on for them. So that's not fair. Like, her reality is still her reality. Like, there's
and it's valid.
It's valid.
Yeah, it's valid, and it's not being validated. She's being told that it's wrong.
Totally, which just exacerbates the problem.
Exactly.
Because in my technology, depending on which bipolar you're from, the characterology technology, bipolar is created by being played by both parents. So your mum plays you off your dad plays you off your mum. You want love from both of them, so you just become split two split people to placate your mum, placate your dad, but in the middle, you don't really know who you are. And in that, the bipolar diagnosis in my technology, it's known as the psychopath, and this is old German language. So when you call someone a psychopath, if you haven't decharged the word, it comes with all of the charge of like psychopath. So for me, it's just a label.
It's like the 64th gene key of psychosis thing that happens for people. Yeah. Yeah.
but in this model of the psychopath, they become amazing leaders. So when I use characterology on people that have become leaders like Trump and other people, they've got that characterology of the bipolar split inside of them. But for them, deep down, there's this trust. They don't know how to trust people because they don't know how to trust themselves, because they need to betray themselves in order to be loved by mum and dad.
Exactly. And a lot of people with just quote unquote labeled disorders, I think, also feel that way. And perhaps that's why they go for the label, or they go for the box in the first place, is it's a starting point to trust ourselves of like, okay, I need to normalize this somehow. I don't understand why I'm getting this reflection from the world. And I need a framework of some sort, which human design can give, without medication.
Totally. Yeah. I think that I had a friend that I was living with for a while. He was I think it was 6'3", 600, which way around, but either way, 6'3", generator. And he had a diagnosis of ADHD. He knew he had ADHD. He had a feeling based on his own research. But then he realized he couldn't make his life work. He just could not make his life work. And he didn't want to listen to human design. But then he really needed the medication to help bring his body into some kind of regulation, and then do whatever he needed to do. And he doesn't want to stay on medication the rest of his life, but he knows he just needed some crutch to bring his body into regulation so he could live. And I think that's if you can find a doctor that can, like a holistic doctor that can manage what you would like to achieve out of life. I think that's a different platform that we can step into. And I guess in that world, there's like credentials. So in Australia, for a doctor to remain a doctor, they've got to sit all these tests every year. It's very expensive, and their relationships suffer because there's so much time and energy spent chasing their tail on credentials. Yeah. But then in our world, like the credentials can be who we are embodied, we know that we are. I know at the start you spoke about there's coaches that are communication coaches and they suck at communication, or they're relationship coaches and they don't have a relationship, right? But there's something about what your inner purpose is that it feels like you're pre-credentialed to exact those gifts onto the world.
Yes, I 100% agree. And I wonder if we can pause for a second. I noticed that it's gotten darker and the lighting's really bad, but I think I can fix it. Is it okay to take a minute?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I'll be right back. Coming out of the dark.
Coming out of the dark and into the light. So speaking of these transitions and coming out of the dark and into the light, and this has been your journey over the past few years. You're coming out of this cocoon, this chrysalis, into something, transitioning into something else. So
big time. Oh,
big time. So first of all, I'd love to ask you what was the hardest bit about going into this cocoon phase?
Good question. Oh, such a good question, actually. We'll call it a dark night of the soul, actually, was what it felt like. And I would say by far the hardest part was just going in alone, because it's very easy to get lost in the shadow when the feelings of fear and anger and hopelessness and despair and powerlessness and all of those old feelings that we've actually been carrying a long time come up. It's hard to remember how to transform them. It's hard to remember. I mean, now, after all these years, it seems very simple. Like, it's just, I tell people, be okay with where you're at. And if you can't be okay with where you're at, be okay with that. or be cool with where you're at. And if you can't be cool with where you're at, be cool with that. You know, like, it's okay to, like, am I okay with this situation? No, I'm not okay. Can I be okay with not being okay? Yeah. Okay, then you're good. That's all you need to do. That's presence. That's self-love. That's unconditional love right there. That's the best, you know? And so now it's just very simple. Like, the it's okay mantra was what really got me through that. But I just felt lost. I felt, somebody told me about 8 years ago that the path, you know, that in the next level for me was going to be to really feel my feelings deeply. And that if I could really feel that, you know, she said, she was a mentor I worked with for a year, and she said, you know, I want to see you depressed. I want to see you suicidal. Like, if you're in that, then I know you're in the right place. Well, being the person that I am, loving to be in the fire, just like I'm kind of like an edge walker anyway. So I distorted that a bit and went looking for pain. Like, I was just like, all right, bring on the pain, bring on the grief and the fear and the anxiety. And like, the sooner we do this, the sooner we make it through to the other side. And I created a lot of unnecessary pain and struggle for myself, trying to do it, trying to make it through. So I had a kind of a psychological break, or you know, at some point where I just, a nervous break, or whatever you call it, and just kind of fractured in a way where I was like, I just can't do it anymore. Like, I can't. That was a very low point for a while. And, you know, a lot of light came in through that experience of, I don't have to find the answers. I don't have to know anything. The answers will come in their own time and in their own way. And 98% of our unconscious is already working on it. And it's going to get back to me with the full report when it's time. And I was working so hard to try to figure it out and to try to understand awakening, try to understand my feelings and how to transform them. And what I really needed was somebody to be there for me, to support me, that I could reach out to in the moment, not a week later in a 1-hour phone call, but in the moment, that I could reach out to, that would talk me through it and just remind me how simple it was. Like, you're okay. It's okay to be where you're at. It's okay to feel this. What you're going through is perfectly all right. Just, you know, be here, be where you're at. Don't try to fix it. You don't have to fix it. And I was trying to fix it. I was trying to get somewhere. You know, I wanted to get through it. I wanted to get to a place that I thought we could get to where I wasn't going to ever feel those feelings again. And that's not possible unless you want to be a non-human or a numb human, right? Which is why we started this journey in the first place, is to not be the numb human. So learning to accept that those feelings are part of humanity, and they always will be, and that just ride that wave. And when they come, how to be with it, how to self-regulate, how to self-love, how to like the little mantras that we can come up with to remind ourselves in that dark place of how to reorient back to love, to unconditional love. And it would have helped me a lot. I spent 5 years, not the last 5 years, but 5 years before that. Actually, it was just at the end of that 5 years where I was coming out for the first time and starting to rock my business or whatever. It was probably a longer ago than 5 years ago. I don't know the timing right now. And that's part of what came up with my like imposter syndrome, I guess, was like, like I kind of just got out of this, and I haven't really grounded it into I haven't integrated it fully, you know, at that point. So I think attempting the journey alone and not really knowing how to do it, there's so many ways to get lost. And the person that I was working with used to always tell me, there's no wrong way to do it. No, there's no wrong way to do it. And she was right from one level, because it doesn't matter what we do or say or think or feel, all of it's valid. But there's a wrong way to do it, because I wasn't just witnessing it. I was in the Gene Keys, we talk about reactive and repressive natures, and I'm a more reactive nature. So a reactive nature is trying to do something, trying to fix it, trying to, you know, it's like interacting with it to try to make it go away in some way, totally aware of it, you know. And I was really deep into trying to fix myself. And yeah, the ease that can come from okay, this experience is happening. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with me because I'm feeling anger or because I'm afraid. There's no part of my life I need to get to where I don't feel fear anymore. I don't need to feel ashamed of the fact that I'm afraid. It's okay. I can just sit with that now, and be with that, and just tell myself, you're good. You got this. Be afraid then. Go be angry if you need to be angry. Permission. I think permission is, there's like 5 master keys that I personally work with, or that are like what I call the master keys in my own awareness. And like trust, or being the witnessing. You can pick one master key and it can take you all the way there. You can just witness for the rest of your life and not do anything else, and you're there. Or you can like fully trust and surrender to life, and that could be your path. And as simple as that. So simplicity, coming back to the simple little mantra of "it's okay" was what really helped me. This is you're okay. It's okay. It's okay, but it's not okay. Well, it's okay that it's not okay. But I hate this. Okay, it's okay to hate this. Oh, but I don't want to do this work. Okay, you don't want to do this work, but I want it to be over. Well, that's all right too. It's like, wow, just like brings so much ease to the nervous system.
Yeah, I really hear the surrender.
Surrender.
Yeah, in every single moment, like wanting to get rid of the emotion. Like, I don't want to be angry. and yet you're angry right now.
Yeah. And it's valid. It's just another feeling, because you get these layers. You have the layer of feeling angry, and then you have the layer of feeling not wanting to feel angry, and then you have the layer of feeling afraid of how that's impacting other people. And each layer needs its own attention and its own it's okay.
Totally.
Each one. And it's like a combination lock. And I start first with what's the feeling most close to me? Well, like right now, if in that moment, maybe I'm afraid of that my anger is going to impact my child, right? Maybe that's the thing that's most in my awareness. Okay. So you disarm that layer first, and kind of work your way in. Am I okay that I'm angry with my child right now? Not with him, but around him. No, I'm not okay with this. This feels like I'm scared, Okay. So be scared. Okay.
This is great. This is perfect. I feel like with my child, Luca, last night we went out to dinner, and he's got defined throat and defined G and projector. And
just the 2 centers only?
I think that's all that's jumping out in the conversation right now is just those 2.
Okay.
But then he when he screams, it's like the whole world can hear him scream. So we were out to dinner last night.
Oh gosh.
And
oh
then
my gosh.
and we were sitting there, and like for me, like I'm just letting him scream. Like I'm like, just scream. He's barely 6 months.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Cassie's like, oh, we need to take him outside. We need to do this. Like I need to put him on the boob. I'm like, it's okay. Just I'm okay with him screaming. Like I've integrated my tantrums. Like I'm okay. I could have him screaming point blank in my ear. I'm okay with all of him. But in that, the tension that it creates in other people, like, oh, this baby's screaming, he's crying. Like you want to try and control the baby, like shut it up. Like this baby's screaming is making me angry. So in that moment, like not allowing the feelings and how that ricochets into everything else. Like really, there's a baby in you that feels invalidated. That's how I see it. When someone wants to try and control the child, control the baby screaming. And in that what you said before about allowing the feeling, whenever I felt angry, and I apply morality to it, it's like I make it good, I make it good or bad or whatever it is, and then I try and get rid of it. Like I go and hit a pillow or do something else or try and process it out instead of just being with it. And I think there's a place for allowing to express it. Like when I'm working with someone in their lower self, like their most primal self. Because when you access that primal self, it creates a container to have a larger bandwidth for all of the emotional expression. And there's one emotion that's the hardest one to be with, and that's terror. And depending on what the person's been through in their early childhood, like terror is in their eyes. And for somebody else to be with somebody else's terror, like there's an element of safety that's required, that's parental, and it's a humanity safety that's required to be embodied to take someone to terror. Like when I'm working through, it's an injury that it's called in characterology, it's called the schizoid injury, and it requires you to lock eyes with the person when you're taking this process, and you become a surrogate vessel for their embodiment. And like usually I'll work on their jaw. There's usually like birth traumas like around here somewhere. And I press in and I encourage them to feel all the pain and make a sound. And you can see it in their eyes, like they glaze over and they become something else in that moment. They're no longer in there. They're no longer present to what's going on for them. So they need that the other person's anchor in there to keep them in their body. Otherwise they split. They just disappear. But terror is something that is really challenging to be with. As like, I'm just going to be with terror right now. It's like, I'm fucking terrified.
It is hard.
It is.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. And, you know, fear in general is a hard one to sit with. It's so uncomfortable. And some of these, they also kind of like have to have the pump primed, you know, like to really transform. I mean, I've sat with fear a lot and nothing happens. You know, you just like sit there for an hour. I'm like, oh, I'm still scared. Like I'm still feeling it, you know, and almost like the terror actually can be good because it brings it to a level, to an intensity where you can. And, you know, the locking eyes, I find that is so, so true and so relevant. I mean, I had an experience with a cat recently that got hit by a car, and I pulled over and this couple had stopped with the cat, and I walked up and I said, what's going on? And they said, well, we want to get out of the road. It's going to get hit, but it won't let us touch it. And I said, okay, it's terrified. It's in shock right now. I know what to do. I can help it. Like I've been working with animals for a long time. And so, you know, I went up to the cat and I just looked it in the eyes and I just said, it's okay. You're okay. You're okay, you know, just like really, you're okay. We're okay. Everything's okay, you know, and it just like slowly kind of calmed down and let me pick it up and snapped out of its shock and ran off, you know, but it's like that deep presencing that does happen through the eyes of reaching into their soul almost and just like holding them, like, I got you. You're all right. You're okay. You know, and it can be transformational. And you're right. Terror is hard. It's hard to do alone. All of this is hard to do alone. It is. It's hard. I mean, we can have this podcast and we can tell people this, oh, sit with your anger, sit with your fear, you know, whatever. And they're going to sit and do it and be like, this sucks. This is hard. Nothing's happening. You know, because in the beginning, especially, it takes the other person, it takes somebody to witness you and be with you and say, keep going. I got you. I got this container. You're okay. Whatever you're feeling, this is valid. Keep going. It's okay. You don't have to be afraid, you know? And I think it's really hard to do alone.
And how does that relate to the 19th?
Of codependence. You know, that's interesting because I do see in my relationships, there's been a long time pattern of wanting to have somebody be there for me in a way that has kept me from being able to really self-regulate or hold my own emotional stability or my own emotional pull, you know? And it's only been in the last maybe 5 years or so that like there was a moment where it clicked for me. I remember this moment, it clicked for me, where I held it for myself. And in that moment, it only took less than a minute for the emotion to come through. It was really fast. It wasn't like a 3-day process and you're crying to everybody and telling everyone the story and all of that. It was like, if I just sit and be with it and like really anchor into this and allow it to move through me, it's fast. But it took me so long to get it. You know, the words weren't enough. It took seeing somebody else do it. It took having somebody presence with me. It's a process, you know, and part of any process is failing too. I mean, it's the discovery. We have to be okay with the failure, and we have to be okay with the part of us that doesn't want to fail, and the part of us that is upset that we did fail, and forgive it all. You know, everything is to be forgiven. Every experience that we could possibly have is okay. I mean, this is really what it comes down to in my soul now, is that there is, like, everyone is innocent. We are innocent. We truly are. And that everything that anyone does on this planet that looks like it's not innocent, it's coming from trauma, confusion, conditioning, a lack of self-love, a lack of direction, just not knowing how. We don't know how. And if we did, we would do it. Nobody wants to walk around with all of this stuff. We don't want to project it onto other people. We just don't know how. And when we blame people that don't know how, they did this to me and they did that and they gaslit me and they projected on me and whatever. And this is a big thing I work with. I work with a lot of narcissism. Like, this is a big, big, big thing for me, because this is one of the biggest things I see in our culture right now, of what's being projected on people. You do something I don't like, you act in a way I don't like, I'm going to call you this thing, and I'm going to tell everybody about you and that they should avoid you, and and how absolutely harmful that can be. Instead of recognizing that this person's doing all those things because they just don't know how to be with their feelings, and they don't know how to resolve what they're feeling, and they're trying in a way that is harmful, but they're doing the best they can. They don't actually wake up in the morning thinking, I'm going to go out and hurt as many people as I can today, and I'm going to have this vendetta to cause pain to people. Like, that's not really what people, most 99% of people who are labeled this way are really not intending to cause people pain. They're really just trying to find their way. Compassion.
Yeah. Thank you.
My SQ.
Yeah, right. When I heard you speaking, I also heard the 18th keep popping out at me, like the 18th, like that perfection.
That's my North Node, my unconscious North Node. Yeah, the non-judgment. I mean, it's huge, because the moment that it's the irony, right? Like the mirror. So the moment that we blame somebody and take on this idea that they've done all these things to me because they're a bad person, and we go out, we tell the world, watch out for this bad person, don't love them, don't talk to them, don't give them what they need. Who are we now? And how have we become what we thought they were? And how are we now, creating trauma for somebody else? And how do we take responsibility instead of projecting it out and blaming this other person? Narcissism, by the way, I also relate to the vanity gene key, very similar,
Yeah.
But how do we take responsibility for that instead and say, these things happened. This person may have done these things and it made me feel this way, but it's not because they're a bad person. This is how I feel, and this is why I feel it. And I'm going to be responsible for my own feelings, and I'm going to use that as the raw material for my own growth, transform those feelings, feel amazing, and be grateful to that person that they brought me that opportunity.
I love that. I've got something to share with you. I commissioned a projector about 2 years ago to turn all the 64 gene keys into light art. So she listened to each gene key and made art from each gene key. Normally I show people the 55, but sometimes I show them the 14. Is there a key that you would love to look at? And I'll show it to you.
Ooh, let's see. I mean, I love them all for so many different reasons.
I know, right?
Yeah. Let's see. I got to run through some in my head here, particular with my own chart. Let's go with, I'd like to find a particularly triggering one. I mean,
how can I get the most burnt right now?
Yeah. Let's go with the 53, since it's
53.
The superabundance, the immaturity, and the expansion, just because so many people are going through like scarcity work right now, and money work, and what is abundance consciousness, and and what does immaturity even really mean? And I'd love to see that one.
All right, great. All right, got it. Let me just maximize it. Full screen. All right, here it comes. Now, what I normally get someone to do is close their eyes. So close your eyes, and I'll throw it up on the screen. You say, open your eyes, and what I'd love to get is your first impressions, what you see, what you feel in your body. All right.
Okay.
Right, so I'm going to share the screen. All right, whenever you're ready.
I don't see anything.
Oh.
I close my eyes again.
Oh, that's funny.
My first impression is
My first impression is, wow, that's interesting. I'm not even gonna let this show. It
is
is
simplicity. It's just a black screen.
that's
Must be the
fascinating.
23rd gene key. Oh, there we go. Okay, I put my glasses on so I can see this properly. Ooh, yeah, wow. I see the expansion in it. I mean, that's the first word that hits, is the expansion, all the different ways that we can expand. Tasting the colors of the rainbow, you know, wanting to try out lots of new things. The 53 is one for people because it's about starting things and not necessarily finishing things, that people have a lot of shame around the fact that they've really, what they don't know is that they deep down, they just want to try lots of things. They just want to taste the whole rainbow, and they don't really want to like go commit to each flavor. They just want to taste it all. So, you know, I look at this and I just see lots of possibilities of movement.
And what does
color.
it feel like? What's the sensation in your body?
I feel excited. I feel excited. I feel like there's potential, an opportunity to explore and experience lots of different things. Yeah. I want to go into it. I want to sit in the middle of that. What does it feel like to be inside of that?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've had enough?
Shoot, you want to show me another one?
No, no, no.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could sit with it for a while and have my own meditation here, you know, and bring the superabundance through it. But
Yeah,
I have this 53, so in my IQ. So there's also like to take full responsibility too. There's also that part of me that has the immaturity or the not wanting to complete things too, that gets to a point where like, and I've had enough, moving on. You know, that doesn't, you know, that's part of what the 53 is all about. It's like it takes the taste and then it, you know, it moves on down the buffet.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for your reflection.
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate that. That's great.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share? I feel like it's done energetically close.
Yeah.
What else would you like to share?
Oh, this has just been so much fun. I feel like we could just sit and talk for hours, and there's so much more we could go into. I mean, we did a lot of human design and gene keys, and it's really kind of technical, and it might be hard for people that have never heard of it. And there's so many more realms emotionally, you know, in terms of intimacy and all of that we can go into. And that could be a really good thing for us after the ISTA to go into more personal, you know, more vulnerable, you know, more transparency and all of that. So this has been so fun. It's really been fun. I love your energy and your questions and your wisdom and the connection. The connection feels really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, the connection feels really sweet. Your intention on the other side of this transformation, do you have one? Have you?
I have do you want me to get my whole list?
Please, yeah, no, do it.
I have so many.
Yes, like I think vocalizing it's hugely important. Allow me to witness it. Like, yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for being such a support for me and such a cheerleader for me. I mean, you've been, it's like, I feel like the whole universe behind me, just like, yeah, go for it. Like go through this portal. And because I love intensity and I love the fire and I love the edge. I mean, I've been waiting for the thing that felt like it was really going to be like the impact, the full impact, like I said to you earlier, and it's a bit of an edge that I need like a good, hard, emotional, spiritual fucking. And that's what it feels like it's going to be. And that's one of my intentions is I feel like I want this deep emotional purging in a container of witnesses of shame, guilt, fear, anger. That's a big one for me, is emotional transparency and vulnerability. And I haven't really been witnessed very much in that. I have, but I've been, in my last relationship, it was very, he was very uncomfortable with it, with vulnerability and transparency.
I can feel my throat as you speak.
I feel it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know I still need that. I still need to feel witnessed and like, okay, like it's okay to do this. You know, I know it's okay, but the experience needs to happen, right? Like I need to get through that. Another part of it is boundaries, obviously better boundaries. One of the things that's always been in my relationships is a lack of sex drive. And the reason now these last years, I'm learning why that is. And I've been transforming it already. is getting to my yes through my no. And it's been a fear of saying no. It's not that I'm afraid. I mean, I always do say no, but then it comes with guilt and shame and, this, the fear that I'm going to be abandoned and all of that. So like a really empowered no, empowerment in general, embodiment for sure. Yeah, I mean, I want to find my desire, and I can be very, 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 very selective about who I share that kind of intimacy with. And so as I've been doing my transformative healing with this the last few years, I've been wanting to call that energy in, but still not quite able to bridge that gap. So I feel there's an element here around rejection, like being able to reject someone and feel rejected, that I really want to go through. I've been calling this in, and people would think I'm crazy for this, but this is the edge walker that I am. I actually called in an opportunity a month ago. I knew when I was coming to Costa Rica, the situation I was coming into, and I told the universe, I was like, all right, give it to me hard. Like, I know I need rejection. Reject me, like really punch me with this. And so I unconsciously set up this opportunity where I was like, it just brought it all up for me. I accidentally, I walked into a very sacred traditional Native American sacred medicine ceremony that they had curated over the entire year for the 70-year-old chief birthday. Right. And I walk up to this property with my friend, and I had just heard it was a party, and I thought it was, I could hear the music. I'm like, oh, it's like ecstatic dance. I'm like wearing my yoga clothes, walk up the hill and walk out right onto the stage into the spotlight, talking to my friend, laughing with my phone on, as unpresent, superficial, as immature, possible, right there on the freaking stage. And the music stopped and everybody turned and looked at me. And I was absolutely horrified, and I started, my whole body started shaking, and my friend came and he was like, what are you doing? You're not even supposed to be here. And I was like, I got that. I got the download the second I stepped on stage. I see exactly what's going on. And I know I shouldn't be here. And he's like, you're forever going to be known as the party crasher. And I was like, I'll own that. As long as we're laughing about it, I will own that. But right now I need to go and sit with what's coming up for me. So I left and I went and I sat, and I had so much come up. I had so much grief come up around rejection and around, old stuff when we were kids, and you go to school and all your friends are mad at you for some reason. You're not your friends anymore, and you're all alone and abandoned. And genetically in our DNA, that at some point in history meant certain death. So you feel that as a threat to your life. So all that was coming up. And at the same time, my awareness that was watching was just yeah, this is good. This is such an opportunity. It's so juicy. It's so raw.
Taste the rainbow.
Yeah, I want the whole rainbow at once is what it felt like. And it was really powerful, but it was so transformative. And I grieved and I shook and I did all the things. But, I even had past life memories come up from transgressions against, I was in a Native tribe that I actually brought shame to by something I had done. And, I had to take responsibility for that and atone for that inside, and apologize to myself for all that. But yeah, I still have a little bit more of that I'm willing to experience. So I think that might come in this experience as well. And just deep, profound connection, really being able to stay in that presence with somebody for through the discomfort, without averting my energy or my attention, and really sitting through that and getting more comfortable with intimacy in general. I mean, I love to cuddle, but even cuddling can feel, there's stuff that comes up for me,
Yeah.
So, I mean, the list goes on. Just, I want to be penetrated spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, everything. Just really I have this image of a pipe cleaner, just whoop, 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 down through the chakras.
I love it.
Clear it out,
Oh,
so that,
wow.
not because it all goes away, not because those feelings aren't going to ever come back and I want to do away with it, but because I want to be comfortable in it.
Yeah.
I want to be comfortable in all of those intense situations. So I actively seek them so that I can experience them and become comfortable in them and feel free, feel more freedom, which is my pearl, liberation.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, when you was thank you for all that, Ray. What I was hearing in that is the humiliation piece. Like humiliation
Oh
is,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
To
like
feel embarrassed.
to feel embarrassed, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fear of embarrassment, and then feeling embarrassed, that shame that washes over you.
Shame.
I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to be here. I'm wrong.
I
Who
fucked up.
I fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
and I think like
Oh.
I
And
think
these are the people that I wanted approval from, like in that part of like seeing the part of me that wanted their approval, that I've been already working with them in sweat lodges for weeks. And, I was like integrating into this community and I felt like there it is, like I'm cast out just like that. Which it wasn't like that, actually there's a lot of beauty that came out of it and a lot of intimacy that came, like friendships, like in
totally.
family that came
And,
from it. Where
and I think when you can be with it and transmute it, that's the gift that comes on the other side, right? And so if you're
exactly.
not resisting it, you're falling on the sword. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't meant to be here. I felt it in that moment, the download. Oh my God. I
Yeah.
know, like everything just,
All
I
at
know.
once. Omniscient perspective. Got it. Oh, I see it all. Yeah.
Instead of trying to make
Oh,
excuses for it or whatever it is, like not falling on the sword, like, I'm just up here. I'm okay. Like, I'm an individual. Like, whose land is this really? Like, we're all one. Like, all that kind of bullshit, Instead of
yeah.
like, this is a sacred space. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
stepped into this, and I think
Yeah.
what stood out to me there was the leadership and arrogance piece, where particularly
I
for
love
I
that
know
one.
for men in general, like not being
Mm-hmm.
able to be with the humility and the humility of being wrong and the humiliation piece of like being
Yes.
overpowering that shame with arrogance. and
Yes. Oh, this
and
is such a good one.
yeah, right. And I
Yeah.
think it
Yeah.
shows up, especially in spiritual communities more so, I think, like the spiritual
So
arrogance.
much.
And so it's like, yeah, you fucked up, brother. Just
Yeah.
be,
Well,
and transmute it.
we all carry this idea from our childhood that if we tell the truth or if we own our stuff that we're going to get in trouble.
Yeah,
And that does still happen at times. I mean, you can say you're sorry and own something and somebody can throw you under the bus and be like, yeah, you asshole. And that's re-traumatizing. That's
yeah,
absolutely re-traumatizing. And what we don't realize is we go into denial and say, no, I didn't do that. No, that didn't happen. No, this, whatever, thinking that it's going to end it, but it just prolongs it for, on and on and on, especially in our relationships. And it can be 2 seconds. Yep, you're right. That happened. I did that. And I'm sorry, it done. And we
yeah.
can let it go. But the denial and the arrogance of the no, I didn't, or that's not me, and I never do that, I wouldn't do that, and that's all you, and blah blah blah. It just creates chaos,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, it does. And I love that pipe cleaner analogy popped up for me again there, where it's like wherever there's not that wherever there's debris, that's what catches on the emotion, right? It's what I'm not allowed to feel that. So when it's clean, you pivot so quickly, and everyone feels how at one you are with everything. Like there's no need
Yeah.
to make excuses. It's like, yeah, I did that. Yeah. And
Yep.
it's
Oh,
in
it's
your
so
voice,
easy.
it's in your body, it's in your cellular
Yeah.
chemistry. It's like you just, yeah.
It becomes so easy. I mean, you can just, it's right through the eye of the needle, and it's so
Yeah.
simple. We avoid it our whole lives. And when we finally do it, it's like, oh my God, that really was the answer. I mean, I've said this before. I used to put this on Facebook a lot because everybody argues with it. But I would just say, everyone is right. We're all right. From each perspective, each person's perspective, they're right. And to just hear somebody, whether you agree or not, and just say, yeah, you're right. If I were you, I might feel the same way. It's like it disarms an argument immediately. And if somebody comes in and they're, you did this and that and blah, 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 blah. And, how could you, whatever they're saying. And if you just look at them and say, wow, yeah, I mean, the most powerful thing that I think somebody could say to that is, wow, what else you got? Like, are you feeling anything else? Bring it on. You're right. Like, I'm here to hear all of that. And that must've been hard for you to feel that I did that, or that I said that, or for you to feel that way. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether I agree with them or not. It doesn't matter whether I have the same perspective, because I won't. My perspective is always going to be different. I don't need to prove my perspective to them. What they need in order to resolve the situation is to feel heard, and that, like, I hear you, I validate you, I'm sorry, and that's it. And then it's resolved. And it is the arrogance that gets in the way of, I don't want to admit that I fucked up.
Mm,
Whether I agree that I fucked up or not, it just doesn't matter,
yeah. Wow. Thank you. I think on that note,
Oh,
that's perfect. Thank you so much,
hmm.
Aeray.
Yeah, thank
I'm so
you.
deeply, deeply grateful for you being here and coming, like,
Mm.
emerging out of the forest to come and speak with me.
Oh, literally, I've been in the jungle. Oh, you
And
are
I look
so
forward to touching
welcome.
base again with you when you're outside of this process, when it's right for
Yeah,
you.
let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
when your
Yeah,
wings are dry or whenever it feels correct for you to come have
yeah.
a conversation. Like I'd love
I
that.
mean, you'll be hearing from me anyway because I'm
Right.
I'm gonna be like, oh my god,
This happened and this and
it's amazing.
the rainbow. I tasted it.
I got there were so many colors I never knew about. All the new ones. Yeah, that's
Thank you
beautiful.
so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah, thank you too. It's been a delight. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm gonna just hit stop.
All right.